Okay. Hi.
Hi.
All right. It's Sunday, December 22nd in the year of our Lord 2024. And I have the privilege of sitting with Pam Pierson, AML Fellow Emerita. And I get to interview you for the, I'm not really sure what this project is called, but
Somebody told you.
But
you should
Yasmin
do it.
Bennett told me to do it, and I do everything Yasmin said.
Makes sense.
So let's start. What led you to become a lawyer? How did you get involved in law?
When I graduated from college, I had no idea what I was going to do.
Now, when was this?
1969.
Santa Cruz, Fiat Slug.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And of course, back then, nobody was going to become a lawyer because it was like we were hippies, you know.
Oh.
But I did have to earn a living, and I went to work at a law firm. It was Pillsbury, Madison, and Sutro.
Ooh, you went to work for the man. Okay.
I did, totally. And yet, while I worked there, I saw the work they were doing, and it was kind of interesting. There were almost no women in the law firm. There's probably 100 lawyers at that point. And then one day, I was riding on the bus on my way to work, and I thought, maybe I could go to law school. That might be an interesting thing to do. And so I did. But the problem was, because I graduated from Santa Cruz, I didn't have a grade point average. At that point, we had no grades at all.
Oh, they had evaluations.
Mm-hmm. And anyway, so I took the LSAT, and I didn't do real well. So I went, but I went to Golden Gate Law School,
where they make the best family lawyers ever.
Well, that wasn't I knew I didn't want to do litigation because I was working for litigation lawyers, and why would I want to do that?
Ew.
I didn't know what I wanted to do, but it kind of the work they did, lawyers in general did, sort of interested me after I'd actually observed them working.
And so when you were at Golden Gate, because there are a lot of family lawyers who came out of Golden Gate, were any of the folks, the other fellows or other colleagues, were they also in your class at Golden Gate, or did you encounter them at Golden Gate?
No, but I was in night school.
Oh.
And the only other person I know for sure who was in law school more or less at the same time was Diana. Richmond. And I believe Diana was a day student, but I never saw her.
Encountered.
But, you know, as a night student, you kind of never saw anybody. It was a hard way to go to law school.
I would imagine, because you were working during the day, and you were, and so were you having any fun, or were you really just kind of head down all the time?
Kind of head down all the time. The first year especially, because I worked full-time that year.
You've always worked, right? Ever since you were a young'un.
Well, no, I ever since I worked summers after I graduated from high school, and then I went and worked after that. And I found out I couldn't work full-time and go to law school, even night school, where I was taking usually 3 classes a semester. And it was just too hard.
And so what did you do instead?
Well, I became the most organized I have ever been in my life. Honest to God. I would get up in the mornings, I would study because I worked in the afternoons, I would study in the morning, then I would have my lunch, and then I would go to work. And I would take notes when I was in school, and then part of my studying was I would type up my notes and create myself a nice study guide, which also, of course, reinforced what I was learning. And then I would do whatever reading I needed to do. And then I always gave myself at least half of Sunday off, because I would work all through Saturday on law school. Honest to God, I was the most organized I have ever been, and I'm a pretty organized person. I know
you were very organized.
But anyway.
So, all right. So you went to law school.
Yes, I did have some fun.
On half of Sunday. Wow.
Half of Sunday.
That's very sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you are at Golden Gate university law school. You are being very organized. You are also working. You're giving yourself the luxury of half a Sunday every week.
Mm-hmm.
You graduate from law school. Then what happens?
I went to work as a lawyer in the law firm that I had been working in, more or less as a legal secretary or a paralegal.
Also Pillsbury, or was this a
No.
different firm?
This was a small 1-2 attorney firm.
Were these the folks doing aviation law?
Yes, they did aviation law. It was initially law offices of Neil Reed, and then by the time I went to work as a lawyer there, it was Reed and Axelrod.
So
they
what
did,
year? Where are we now?
1975.
Okay.
And they had a general practice, but Dan Reed had the specialty of aviation law. And I did a little bit of that, although at his request, I learned to fly an airplane.
I was going to say, fun fact, you were a licensed pilot.
Well,
were you not?
I was.
Okay.
I'm not technically. But yes, I became a pilot because he wanted all the lawyers in the firm to be licensed pilots.
That is very cool.
I guess.
Oh.
It's pretty cool. It's an interesting it's at this point in my life, it's more of a fun fact about Pam, but than anything.
Could you get into a Cessna right now and operate it to the point where you could land relatively safely?
No,
okay, we're all
it's
screwed.
been a really long time.
Okay.
Don't do that.
I won't. I'm not getting into a plane with you. I would follow you to the ends of the earth, but not in a plane that you're piloting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't do that.
Okay. So you work for Reed and Axelrod for how long?
From 1975 until 1980, the beginning of 1980.
Okay. And do you go to court at all? Are you litigating? Okay.
Yeah. I was doing litigation, and it was there because I was the lowest rung on the totem pole, and whatever, any family law cases that came to the office, I did.
Oh, and that's how they got assigned, just like judges, like the person who
exactly
has,
the lowest, least seniority gets the family law cases.
Okay.
But I kind of liked those cases.
Yeah.
I liked the cases. Sort of, it felt like the reason I wanted to be a lawyer, that I was actually helping somebody. Little did I know, but yes, I was actually helping somebody. And
So okay, so 1980, you're doing family law. You kind of like it. It's creeping. It's gaining a foothold in your consciousness. Mm-hmm. Then what happens? 1980.
Well, actually, in 1979, towards the end of the year, I was getting to the point where I was like, this feels like a dead-end job to me. Like I needed to do something to change. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any specific direction I wanted to move in. I just felt like staying where I wasn't a good career move. And one day I was sitting in the office and the phone rang, and there was nobody else around, so I answered the phone. And it was one of the lawyers in the office of Susie Thorne. And I knew Susie's name. She at that point was well known as a family law lawyer. So I recognized, and the phone conversation was, "Hi, this is Susan Keel," was the attorney calling me.
I remember Susan Keel.
And Susan said, "We got your name. We're looking for a lawyer to hire. Would you be interested in interviewing with us?" And I was like, "Well, sure."
I did not know this.
Oh yeah, I didn't even have a resume at this written out.
How did they find you?
Through Judge Don King.
Oh wow. Okay.
Don, well, I wouldn't have called him Don at that point,
No,
but
Majesty,
Judge King,
yes,
who was at that point, well, he certainly became, but he was the family law judge in San Francisco and kind of renowned even at that point. This would have been 1979. And I was like, okay, it's a pretty good recommendation. And he gave her Susie, my name. It turned out.
How did you encounter Justice King? Judge
I
King?
had just had a case. I mean, I'd been in front of him a bunch because I was doing the family law
because you're
work.
doing family law. Okay.
But I had at that point, I had a complicated case that I had made a series of appearances in front of him. And I won't go into it right now why the case was complicated, but it was basically I was representing the widow of a man against his ex-wife. I had intervened back into the deceased husband's divorce. I think that's what I did. I don't remember. But I was suing to get his ex-wife out of the house that my client had inherited from her husband that the ex-wife was living in.
Ah.
And so it took a bunch of creativity to try and deal with that. And I guess it impressed him. And when Susie had gone in and asked him if he'd seen any attorneys in his courtroom that he was impressed with, my name was one of the names that he had given her.
Nice.
So I went and I interviewed.
Okay. And then?
Susie hired me.
Okay.
And so in early in January 1980, I went to work for Susie.
And how long did you work with Susie?
I worked with Susie until I think it was 1988.
And then what happened?
And then one of the other attorneys who was then working for Susie, Melissa Tobin and I, left the law firm and created our own law firm.
Pierson and Tobin.
Pierson and Tobin.
So by this time, while you were working with Susie, did you develop did you know that you were gonna, family law was it? Like that was your path?
I was excited to go work for her because by that time I found family law interesting and exciting. And in 1975-ish was when the Family Law Act came into being. And
so no more no fault.
Yeah. And so family law was really exploding. There was a lot of new legislation. People were coming into the field and were interested in it. The 80s it was a really exciting time to be in family law because the law was developing, because a lot of the stuff from the old fault days didn't apply anymore. And anyway, so it was exciting and interesting, and I was excited to go do that law.
So I want to take a little detour because I know that for years and years and years you did a ton of service for the profession. Like I know that you were in the law practice management section, you did FlexCom, you did all of that. When did you start getting involved in the service part of the profession? Like when did you start working with the state bar?
I don't remember exactly, but it was pretty soon. Susie really encouraged me to do that. She felt that kind of work was important. She did a lot of it. And so I did. I initially, as I recall, I don't remember whether I did BASF stuff. I subsequently did some BASF stuff. Bar Association of San Francisco, I think they call it something different now. But that's actually kind of a funny story too. But Susie really encouraged me to work on state bar stuff. And so I did. I joined the subcommittee on custody and visitation. And then I moved on to FlexCom. And I was on that for a number of years. I was the chair of that for a while. And then I did law practice management as well.
So, and
I did committee. I did other stuff like CSOD, Committee on Sexual
Orientation Discrimination.
Yeah,
yes, you did. Oh my God, I'd forgotten about that.
Oh, I was their...
or token straight person?
Yeah, I was the token straight person.
You did a very good job. God, I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, I did too.
So, 1988, you and Melissa, may her memory be for a blessing, formed Pierson and Tobin. So let's talk about that chapter. Like, what was exciting about that? What were you looking forward to? What was your thought about that chapter of your practice?
it was increasingly difficult and restrictive working with Susie. And I wanted to be free of that. And so it was fun and exciting to create my own firm and work with in a way I wanted to work and have the practice be the way I wanted to, and to develop my own practice. And by that time, 1988, I had enough work under my belt and referral sources and contacts within the family law community. Because again, I'll say, this was a young, developing community, so it wasn't all that hard to develop a new practice.
And when you say you wanted to sort of do it your way, what was your vision? Like what did you want to accomplish in your practice? Like what was the?
I wanted to earn a living.
Ooh. Okay.
That's an interesting question. I did want to earn a living, but I wanted to work. It's hard to remember all that long time ago, but I wanted to be able to work with clients who had interesting cases, who needed help. I didn't want to just work with people who were wealthy. I was never particularly interested in making law, like doing appellate work and that sort of thing. I liked doing litigation. One of the things I always liked about family law is the diversity, the variety of things you learned about, different kinds of businesses. I learned, because I ended up doing a lot of work in custody, I learned a lot about the psychology and stuff, sort of collateral areas of interest and expertise that you develop when you're a good litigator, that you have to learn to do it. And so I don't think I had a vision per se when I left, other than I wanted to be on my own and I didn't want to have to be in a practice where I was struggling with my colleagues. I wanted to work in a practice where my colleagues and I got along better.
So at some point, and I don't recall when, but at some point Melissa took the bench. Melissa became a commissioner in the Superior Court, family law commissioner.
It was 4 or 5 years into it, I think. I don't remember either. When did you come work for me?
I came to work for you in January of 1993.
Okay, so Melissa would have gone on the bench in 1992, so it was 4 years later.
Okay, so then your practice, so you have an opportunity, right? So your partner has taken the bench.
Yep.
Then what? What was next?
Well, there I was, just me. And I knew I didn't want to work I didn't want to be a solo practitioner in the sense that there was just me. And I got calls from a lot of other lawyers, who were interested in possibly partnering with me. And I was like, none of them felt quite right. And then I was sitting there one day, and I said, maybe I should hire Andrea Palash.
Still don't know. How the hell did you know who I was? How did you know who I was?
Again, the family law bar, as you know, wasn't that big back then. And I had encountered you somewhere.
Well, I clerked for Judge Grant.
And you were, you had worked for Karen Kadushin, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
Yeah.
I repressed that.
And I don't know, something about you had impressed me, and I thought you were smart and clever and funny, all of which were really good things in my book. And I went out and I said to Lisa Kim, who worked for me, she was my assistant there. I went, and I knew she knew you, and I said, what do you think? Should I talk to Andrea and hire her? Lisa said, oh, what a good idea. So I called you up and I asked you to come and talk to me.
You did. And you called me out of a clear blue sky and said, hey, you want to talk to me? I said,
Almost
sure.
as weird as how I got hired by Susie. I
didn't know that. Yeah, I thought I was in trouble when you called. I thought, oh God, I've done something wrong and they've deputized Pam Pierson to break the bad news to me. That's what I thought.
No.
That's what I thought.
Anyway, so you came to work for me.
I did.
And at the same time was when we moved into a larger space, and a colleague of mine from law school and his partner moved into the same space, and we shared office space.
And when did MJ, Mary Jo McCoy, dear family friend, when did MJ come to work with you? When did that happen?
It was within it was with Melissa. MJ had been doing something else for me.
She did the graphic design for Pierson and Tobin.
Yes, she did. And she was in the office bringing some stuff to Melissa and me to look at. And she saw something on the desk that was about bookkeeping or something. She said, oh, I can help you with that too if you want. I was like, great. I had, I didn't know how to do that. I figured I'd learn how to do the bookkeeping tax stuff. But as it turned out, MJ, who was a childhood friend of mine, and we grew up next door to each other, came to work for me. And she was so much more than a bookkeeper. She was so much, her role expanded. She was sort of an office manager.
She made the railroad run.
She did. And I have said frequently that in many ways, she was another partner. She was the business partner. And it was fabulous for me because this is somebody, she was like a family member for me. And I trusted her. We had a meeting of the minds about how you do business, what you do and how you do it. And it was just a fabulous experience for me to have her there.
Did you, and we've talked about this before, because working with you, our firm was a family, your firm was a family. And was that somewhere in the back of your mind, was that really what you envisioned? Like, this is what I want. I want my workplace to feel like an extension of my family. Did you see that coming, or was that?
I wouldn't have planned it. I think it's just a consequence of maybe who I am. And that's how I wanted my life to be. And having Mary Jo there, kind of made it happen. And the people who stayed there the longest, and we had some pretty odd people work for us.
Yes, we did. We had.
But even they kind of found a place for everybody. And the people who worked with us, me, it was always really important to me that they be treated with respect and dignity. I never would have demanded somebody be there at a certain time or do a certain job. Always tried to fit the work to the people. I mean, obviously, if I hired somebody to be a lawyer, or I hired them to be a legal assistant, that's the work I wanted them to do. But I wanted people to do their best job, and I always felt that they couldn't do their best job if I was telling them how to do it. I had to give them guidelines. I had to give them enough information to do their job, but I liked to let them find their own path. And I mean, obviously we were doing law, so there were certain things that had to be done.
Certain rules, yes.
But there wasn't only one path to a goal. And I I really preferred to let people find their own path, to give them the support and guidance that they needed when they needed it, but to let them be who they were.
You were an incredible mentor to me. Like, I'll cry. Did you? I know, but did you? I mean, did you have a sense of yourself, like when you took me on, and it really was like you rescued a pound puppy. Did you have a sense of like how you wanted to mentor a younger lawyer? Did you have
Not
a
consciously.
sense? No.
Not consciously. What I've just said to you was sort of the way what I expected of anybody who came to work for me is for them to bring their best self to work, for them to do the best job they can, if they had questions to ask them. And I kind of firmly believe that if you give people the room to do all of those things, they're going to meet your expectations. And I always felt like you met or exceeded my expectations and hopes. And I thought it was so satisfying to watch you turn into the lawyer you became. I mean, it really was. And it wasn't just you, it was you did, but other people who worked there, like Randy.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
He came to work for me.
Right, as an assistant, a paralegal.
Yeah, but the reason I hired him, Mary Jo's daughter knew him, and Mary Jo said, well, you know, Randy might do this. He's never done any of this kind of work. And I said, okay. I hired him because when I talked with him, he spoke so highly of his mother. Honest to God, and I thought,
what's not to love?
Anybody who likes his mother this much is going to be okay. And he didn't know, he figured out how to do it. You helped him, I helped him, MJ helped him, and he was smart. And so it was a pleasure watching him fill in the job.
Off to law school he went.
Yeah, and I found it very gratifying to watch younger people come in and find a path for themselves. It wasn't my path. It was similar, it might be parallel, but it wasn't mine. And that actually was one of the things I didn't like about working for Susie. Mm-hmm. Is Susie wanted me to be the same kind of lawyer she was. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't, and I was never going to be. I mean, we're in the same field, but I couldn't do it her way.
Right.
And I needed to do it my way. And so wasn't my nature to tell other people how to be who they were. They needed to figure that out for themselves. And I wanted to give people the space to do that.
And you did. You were incredibly good at letting us all be us, while at the same time really kind of helping us find our way.
Yeah, and I think that really fostered what you described as the kind of familial sense. Mm-hmm. Is I think a lot of us really loved each other.
Oh my God.
It was
hugely.
Yeah. And the other thing that made it happen, just Mary Jo's presence there, she and I, as I said, worked really well together and kept the business on the business aspect, straight and narrow. I think, and that helped because it provided an even keel for all that other stuff to happen.
I always got the sense, there was a sense, you created a sense of safety and security and stability, and part of that was really the business. I never had the sense that we were anything but steady. It really felt like a business that was run in a very business-like way.
Yeah, there were times when the money was better than others, yes. but yes, I think so too.
Susan Coates joined in 1997.
Yes. Okay.
That's when I became a partner.
Yes.
And Susan, how did Susan come to us?
It's interesting because she had been working for all of the rest of her career with Larry Stoddard and various other people, Rick Chamberlain and Dee Samuel. There are a whole bunch of other people in and out of that office. And I think at some point she just got to a point where that wasn't working for her. Mm-hmm. And I had known her all this time. Interestingly, when Melissa's and my partnership had broken up, Susan, I won't say represented, but at some point, Melissa and I designated other of our colleagues to stand in and resolve the issues that we had in getting our practice done. And Susan actually represented Melissa, therefore. And so it was always sort of funny that Susan and I became partners. Susan and I have had a few chuckles about that. But, I mean, she basically came to us, or me, and said, how about if I join your law firm? And I was like, oh, cool. And I was working with you to make you a partner, and we all said, okay, let's all be partners. It wasn't that hard a thing to do.
So I'm going to switch gears for a second. So when did you become involved with the academy? How did you learn about the academy, and when did you become involved?
Okay. It was probably around 1985 I became a member. Susie was one of the early founding members of the academy in Northern California. And it was just a relatively small group of people, and a lot of the original lawyers were litigators who had been doing litigation for years when the Family Law Act came into play, and then they began to specialize. It was a lot of more hardcore. Your battery's about to get low. You could plug it in, I guess. Or stop talking soon. And she kind of pushed me on them in a lot of ways, to tell the truth. Because she really, I'll give her credit, she really pushed my career. She really did. And which was fine. But anyway, but the side of it is, so she's kind of pushed me onto them. Sorry. And so what it did is it gave me a real sense of commitment. Okay, if I'm going to be in this organization, I better be a damn good family law lawyer. So
what did you like about the academy? And over time, did that change? Like, how did your relationship with the academy change over time?
One of the reasons I liked family law and I liked going into family law is I really liked the lawyers I met who did the work. Although they were litigators, there was something, I would say, kinder and gentler about them, more human than the other litigators out there, the more civil litigators. And I don't know, I just liked them as people better. And that was one of the things I liked about the academy, even early on. But that remained. I liked family law lawyers. I liked the people who did it. That was why. And the other thing I liked about the academy, which initially it was kind of we get together and have dinner club kind of thing, which was fine. But as the years went on, the academy became more involved in developing the practice, bringing in new lawyers into the practice. They had always had the symposium once a year, and I had gone to the symposium before I went to work for Susie, and I was like, wow, blown away at the quality of work I'd gotten.
Were you one of the first practicum co-chairs, the trial practicum?
Yes. I was in, I think, the second round. And, but I really liked, that's one of the things I really liked about the chapter is the increasing amounts of training new lawyers, raising the level of the quality of the practice. So that was, and to my knowledge, that's still what the academy is doing.
True. So let's take the 30,000-foot view. How long were you in practice from start to finish before you retired?
I was in practice for 4 years, 1975 until 2015.
And if you could describe the arc of family law, the practice over those 40 years, could you?
As I said earlier, the 80s and early 90s were a period of incredible growth within the body of law. A lot of new law was getting enacted legislatively and through the courts, because as the Family Law Act got interpreted and expanded upon, and lawyers were bringing new skills, and like the whole way that various forensic experts got brought into the practice, and that was really, really exciting. It was fast moving, and you had to be, family law lawyers I knew did more to become educated in the practice than anybody. When the state bar brought in the CLE requirements, it was like nothing for family law lawyers, because we were taking classes all the time, but we had to keep up with what was going on. And so that was exciting and fun. And then as time went on, the pace slowed down. The practice became, and it's hard to know whether it was because of how I was practicing and the level at which I was practicing, but it became more complicated. And I think in a lot of ways it became more contentious. And
why do you think that is?
Why do I think it became more contentious? I think there were I think that's the nature of litigation, is more people fighting for pieces of the pie. And I think people came into the practice who weren't as sensitive to the fact that we were dealing with families, and that any damage we created in the process of litigating the divorce was going to live on for years in the family, which at a certain level didn't matter if it was just a man and a woman or a woman and a woman, whatever they're,
right.
Well, it was always men and women for most of the time.
Back in the day, yes.
If the two people would never speak to each other again. But when, as we all know, that isn't the way the world works, and there's whole families involved in all of this. And I always felt like, sort of do no harm. But increasing number of people came into the field who I don't think cared a damn about what damage they did to the families. And that was the reason. There's probably because there was money to be had in the practice. There was more competition. Everybody was trying to take their place. Anyway, so I think that's also part of the reason I ended up leaving when I left.
Right. Yeah,
it wasn't the clients, because by the time I left the practice, I could pretty much pick and choose who my clients were. And most of the time, if not all of the time, I really liked my clients.
You had great relationships with your clients.
I did, and I found ways of working with my clients that was productive for the client.
You had an uncanny knack for meeting clients where they were. I have seen few lawyers do that as skillfully as you did.
Thank you. But, I wanted to leave. One of the things I liked about working with the clients was it was so remarkable to watch the transformation they were going through, from having their marriage fail to coming out the other side. And it was such it was so satisfying for me to be any kind of a part of that process. It's like I really felt like I could help. They did the work, but I was sort of helping them to see the path. Anyway, so those are the clients I got to work with. I don't want to curse, but I'm going to say there was a lot of assholes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just got to the point where it was like, yeah, life is too short.
I remember the day you walked into my office and you were like...
I had just had it. I was like, no, I'm tired of fighting with these people.
Mm-hmm.
I can retire and not have to put up with them. So I did.
So you have had, I mean, I could, we can all look at your CV and go, wow, you've had an incredibly storied career. You have served the profession admirably, and I think above and beyond many of our colleagues. What are the things that you are, because I think you have left an amazing legacy in this profession.
That's not, okay,
I'll
true. Take your word for it.
Thank you. What are the things you're proudest of?
I'm actually proud of the kind of office that I ran and how we all worked together. I'm proud of being able to give opportunities to people like you, to Amy to some extent, to Randy. I'm proud of the way I was able to help clients.
Can I put in a plug for the Rally Project?
Yeah, Rally, I helped, Rally, I helped create Rally. That feels good. That feels like I made a significant, I'm sure it's very different now than when I created, but I helped create it. It was a long time being created, and then I stuck with it, helping them to sort of go on with it. But then the work I did after I retired with Overcoming Barriers was consistent with that, trying to develop the practice in a very specific area of resist, refuse problems and cases, and develop the law, not the law so much as the provide lawyers and mental health professionals and judges with better skills to deal with those cases. So, I'm not the most academic of people. And so that's why appellate work was never particularly, but I care a lot about the quality of the practice of law, and I want people to be good at, if they're going to go out there and practice it, I want them to be good at it.
So, last question. We have a new crop of incoming fellows, and if you were to give all of us, actually, because we are never too old to stop learning, what would your advice to us be? Your parting words in this interview, because you're going to live forever. Just FYI.
I'm not. I think, the first thing that sprung to mind is be kind to each other. But it's also what I said about remember that these are families that you're dealing with. It's not just about how much money they have or how much money needs to be divided. Remember that what you do impacts whole families. Not just your client, not just the opposing party, but their parents and their children and everybody coming afterwards. I think most, or at least it used to be, that most of the people I know who practiced family law kind of revere and respect marriage. They like marriage. And many of my colleagues, yourself included, who have had, have had marriages and divorces and have developed relationships, the dog, had developed relationships with their former spouses or their their spouse's former spouse, and have created these sort of extended families, which I think we as lawyers should allow for that potential to happen, because it's better for the families, especially if there are children. But even if they're not, for the families to be able to acknowledge the importance of these significant relationships that we enter into when we marry somebody. That even if that marriage would end, that there is value in maintaining some kind of a relationship with that person. I guess a lot of this is all about relationships.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying. Yeah. And maintaining the possibility for it in the future. Also, it's going to be a whole lot nicer on you as the practitioner if you're not being mean to people all the time.
I guess. Sure.
Well, how would you know?
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank
for
you
taking the time to talk to me.